Hey y'all, I am back again. Thanks to all of you who subscribe and follow us on this crazy journey. I did on my Instagram the other day a question box and let you guys ask me whatever you wanted. You guys know I'm a mostly an open book, so wanted to answer these questions. I'm really excited to do it this way today so that I have more than the 15 seconds that Instagram gives me to answer a question. It's a lot more, I can answer some of the questions you guys ask more in depth than I usually get to. So we'll get into all the details. There's lots of questions about Paul, kids, marriage, all these things about the babies. There's lots of questions I've seen. I won't get through them all, but I'm just gonna start scrolling and go through a number of them, and I hope it helps. So follow along, don't forget to subscribe. And if you like it, I'll do it more. So, okay. I'll do it more. So, okay. Question number 1, are you done having kids, adopted or bio? I don't know. We could be. I feel really fulfilled, but I also, part of me says that we're not done yet. It's definitely not a hard no. We're open to it. And I think adopted and bio, I'm open to both. Paul is also open to both. So we'll see. But I'm not getting any younger. Let's see. I'm also, how long have you and Paul been dating? Marriage an option. Some don't after divorce. So marriage is definitely an option. I'm not opposed to it. He has never been married and has no kids. That's another question somebody asked. So yeah, we're open to it. We've been together a little over 2 years. We hit 2 years in March, I believe. So a few months more. We hit it right in 2 years in COVID as it hit. Marriage is definitely something we're talking about. There's lots going on that make that very complicated. While I share a lot on camera, there's a lot I don't share, and life is just not as easy as one would think. So we'll see. We're hoping to get there. Definitely an option. Let's see. What kind of vehicle do I have that fits 3 infant toddler seats side by side? So I actually have 2. I have a work vehicle, a Jeep Grand Cherokee. It will fit 3, but it's tight. It did, if you're gonna do 3, I highly recommend, I'll try to put a link below, the Diono Car Seats. Those are very thin. I'm sure there's some other brands, but those for us are very thin. I have some even flow ones that are larger that I love. We still use it, but they're literally like 7 inches wider. So I think it's only about 17, 18 inches wide, the Dionos. So that's what we switched to ultimately. I kind of wish I'd known that and known I was gonna have 3, because I probably would have started with those. So if you're a foster mom and not sure how many, and you don't do well at saying no, like I don't, then you might want to start with the Diono. You can find some good sales on them on Amazon, I'll Be Baby, things like that. The other car that I have, which would fit, I believe, 3 of the even flows wide, is this Toyota Sequoia. My Jeep is a company car, so I'm the only one that can drive it, which became a problem with the nanny. And we got really lucky when I sold my last house to buy this one. I was able to use the equity that I had built up in that house to not only put the down payment here, but also buy that car. So it's a used one, but it works great. We have a 2010. The back seat is huge. We love it. I absolutely recommend it as a family car if you've got lots of kids. The back end is great. I love big cars. I feel more comfortable, and I just don't have to worry about space with them. So that I highly recommend, especially if you have larger car seats and you like those. So hopefully that answers your question. How did I decide on Jackson's name, and what is the significance behind it? This is also shared in one of my other videos. I should link that here. I tell you about Jackson's adoption story, so I'll put that link here. But all the kids kind of have, to explain his name, I have to explain the others. Grayson was born. I wasn't sure I would even get to name him when I went to the hospital, but I have a baby name. I keep like a list on my phone. I had done that. I was dying to be a mom. Oh, and I tried before when I was married. So something on my mind. And at the top of it had always kind of, as time had evolved, at that point, Grace or Grayson had moved to the top. That like, by the grace of God, everything I've been through, if I get to be a mom, it's just by his grace that I'm a mom. And so that day when I picked up Grayson at the hospital, they did give me the option to name him. And so I did end up choosing to call him Grayson. I took that risk. And so then his first name is Charles. That's from the nurses there. That's what they called him. So he's Charles Grayson, his middle name. He goes by his middle. Then, so Hannah came along, and eventually she had another name from her mom when she was born, Zoe. And I wanted to keep it, but I didn't feel like it was right. There were a number of reasons why, safety, etc. Some of that's in our story and our other videos too about their story. You'll hear more about that. I'll link that here if I can. And when Hannah came along, we decided to change her name, and I ended up wanting, I discovered Hannah meant grace. It translated to grace. And so we had Grayson, and then by the grace of God, I had a son, and we had Hannah, which translated to grace. So she became Zoe Hannah, and it also went by her middle name. So then when the next baby came along, we were told that he wasn't named. They weren't sure. They thought maybe she had, but she hadn't. So for that first month, we actually picked a name, but it took me a couple weeks, honestly, to figure it out, or a couple days at least a week. But I struggled with names, and I think Jackson didn't come to my head at first. When I was previously married, I had stepchildren, and one of those, the youngest, was named Jackson. So it kind of felt like I'd already had a kid with that name. But ultimately, I kept researching, and I looked at that name. I've always loved that name, and found that it translated to God has been gracious. And I just felt like that was perfect for him. And so, you know, my past, I don't really keep in touch with my stepchildren. Before that, there was a lot of things around that, and they're older. I think Jackson would be, I'm like, how old? He's in college now. So we just don't really keep in touch. And so I felt it was okay to move on and give him that name as well. I've always loved it. So yeah, I named him after God has been gracious. It felt like, boy, God had been gracious, 3 babies in 3 years. So, and then he did have another name his parents had given him, but I believe it was named after his dad, and I just didn't, at that point in time, I decided I would rather, at this point, I didn't know if I'd have any kids of my own biological, and I wanted to honor my dad, and so I named him, his first name is Lewis, after my dad and my grandfather. So he goes by Lewis Jackson. So let's see. Did I go into foster care with the intention to adopt? I did not necessarily. I didn't know a ton about it, for one, when I started, but I just kind of was open. And as I learned more, I was like, oh, you can adopt out of foster care. I just always kind of thought it was a temporary home for kids. And then realizing you could. Some people only go into it and only want to do foster to adopt, which is fine. I kind of had gone into it thinking fostering, but I checked both boxes and said, I'm open, you know, God take the wheel. We'll figure it out. And so ultimately, obviously, I did. But I didn't start that way. Was the transition from 1 to 2 or 2 to 3 kids harder? I would say 2 to 3. All were hard just because they were so fast, unexpected. I didn't have any preparation. I didn't know any more coming. But Jackson, none of the babies walked when Jackson was born. So Hannah was just 13 months old. Grayson was just turned 2 and was like a month, like 25 months. So he didn't walk. Hannah didn't walk. And so carrying around 3 babies that all need you to pick them up. I mean, you can't get anything. They can't do anything for themselves hardly. They can kind of crawl, but that was a lot. And we have stairs in the home just like we do this one. So I couldn't get up the stairs with all the babies. It was a lot. It was a lot. So I would say 3. It also changed the game on like car seats, everything I'd had up until that point. Now we needed 3 pack and plays, like 3 cribs. Like we were not out of cribs or anything. So it was just a lot. So, okay. How do you get started adopting as a single person? Great question. I feel like I should do a whole nother video on this. But adopting as a single person in the US is really no different than a couple. They don't discriminate here, or at least not any of the agencies I work with. I'm sure there's some private agencies that may have a little bit more guidelines. Maybe, I don't know. But I went through the county and the state, and I had no issue. There was no question about it. They welcomed it. How did I get started? Just as everybody else would with an info session is how we work. Every place is different. I would love to tell you that there was like this straight, clear path I could tell you. There isn't. Where I work, I can go through a county. Some places you can only go through a private agency. So it really depends, and you've got to do your research for where you live. I did find this website. I can't remember off the top of my head, but when I post this video, I will find a link and link it below. There's an amazing website. It's a company, like a nonprofit started by Focus on the Family, a great Christian organization. I just did an interview for them a couple weeks ago. And that was when they connected me and told me about this organization I'd never heard of. But on their website, they have a link, and you can click on your state and find the contact info, where to go, who to go to. Lots of great info that I wish I'd known about back in the day when all these people asked me how to do this, because this is a common question. So I'm going to give you this website, and I hope that helps. Let's see. A lot of these are repeat. Can you get just one photo of Paul? No. I have vowed not to unless he decides to change his mind. I don't anticipate he will. A lot of it right now is job related, and I 100% agree with why he doesn't want to show his face, and we don't give some of those private details. Even if he didn't, I don't think he would. He's just not a huge social media guy, never has been, and I'm fine with that. I think some people like it, some people don't. Some people would hate YouTube and videos. Like, he loves to watch YouTube and videos, and he's very supportive of me doing this and sharing our story and all those things. It's more of a safety, security, just personal thing. So, doesn't bother me at all. Let's see. Do I work another career besides Rodan and Fields? I do. Rodan and Fields is really more of a side business for me that I have a lot of fun with. Love helping women do that. But I actually work full-time in the construction industry. I have for my entire career been in construction, managing large commercial projects. So I'm right now working on a children's hospital mental health department for them, helping them expand that at the hospital locally. Super fun, love it when my passion and my kids and all those things that I'm about intersect with that part of my work. So I do. Can I tell you about the medical conditions the kids have? Gosh, that's a whole nother long video. That one I'm probably gonna defer to another video because that's a lot, and I wanna be a little bit thoughtful about how I share that. So, let's see. A lot of these are about Paul. Y'all love Paul. How long have we been together? How do I manage it? 3 kids, jobs, side hustle. What does an average day look like? Oh, there isn't an average day, but keys to how I manage it. I have a nanny. We have not always had that. We've had in-home daycares. We've done lots of different options. I've had friends who've had to move in and help me through. We've had no pair. We've had all different ways. I will say that today, I don't think we'll ever go back from having a nanny. It is very expensive, but well worth it. It's the only way that I can really, because I work full time and have no other option. Only other option, if I could ever figure out and make my career work, maybe this YouTuber thing. I doubt it, but if I could find some other income where I'd be at home, that would be my other option. We love having a nanny because that helps me make sure that every therapy my kids need, every doctor's appointment, all the things that they can do, it just really gives the flexibility. It requires, if you work with me, you have to be very flexible because my life is very ever-changing with 3 kids, and I prioritize them, and everybody around me knows that. So that is a lot of it. I work late. I work a lot of hours. I work around their hours. Right now, the kids are napping, and so I am videotaping. I will edit this likely later at night, but I do it during the day to get some good lighting. Key to success. I hope that this looks decent. Otherwise, let's see. I mean, that's kind of a lot. It's just time management, just working in the cracks of my life and when I can, and knowing when I just can't get it all done and learning to let it go. Not the greatest at that. I feel like often I'm doing lots of things, but none of them really well. So working on that, and I work out early in the morning. That's the thing I'm trying to do. So I get up early before the kids. My kids are good sleepers. Try to work out, get things going, work all day, spend the evenings with the kids, and then after the kids go to bed, a lot of times I'm back to work. Or if Paul's around, I'm hanging out with him. He travels a lot, so I get a lot done when he's gone because I can get to projects and get a lot done. Everybody's asking, have I met the kid's bio mom, and what is her story? I have met the kid's mom. Eventually I did when Hannah was a baby. That's the only time I've ever known her. And we did some visits. So there's a little bit of a longer story. Again, go back to my video linked below, or maybe I can link it here, with the story of our miracle, and you'll hear a lot more. That's about as the most I'll ever share about her. It's not everything. Some of that is her story to tell, not mine. But you can find more there, what I do share. That's the best place to go because it's kind of a long story. Do I have a blog? Yes, I do. Linked below as well. I have woodandgrace.net is my blog. I had a blog for years. I had Faded Grace before that when I was married. Then I changed it. It was actually more of a home decor blog. I love home decor. That's always what I thought I'd blog on more. But my kids have become more of that. I still weave it in. But yeah, so I do have one. Go check it out. It's also linked on my Instagram. Let's see. Have I heard if the kid's birth mom is pregnant again? I have not. I do keep in touch with some of the other moms of adopted kiddos, and as far as we know, she is not, but I've never known she was. It's always been a surprise. So I'd be shocked if I did find out in advance. It'd be awesome. Does the bio mom know me, or was it a closed adoption? That's related to the question before. So she does know me. I don't know if she knows I have them though. And that's also explained in the other video about our miracle that you can watch and get full details on. How did I meet Paul? Tell us about Paul. How did we meet him? And this is a single adoptive mama who's saying it's hard to meet somebody, hard to meet people. Hi, Grayson. Okay, so quickly, I'll try to say this, then I need to get back to the kids. We met actually, long story short, I've talked before about I was in, the church I go to was a church plant, and I was at another church at the time, switched to this church. I've been there ever since. And so it was really new, and they started a women's group, and I happened to join their very first women's group. I was desperately in need of just fellowship and women and direction. I was really struggling after my divorce, and I met this, and in my group of like 8 women, there were these 2 sisters that were awesome, and I loved them. And one day later, one of them happened to have a single brother-in-law, and I met him one day. I don't even remember it. He remembers it better than me. Whoops. It was like a church worship night and a local coffee shop. Actually one that made the news national for staying open during COVID. Anyways, I think they're closed now. But I was laughing. I'm like, that's where we first met. So we met then, and then I was renovating my old home that we lived in before I was a foster mom, and one of the girls, my friend, came over and was helping me to renovate the home, and she invited her brother-in-law. I was actually dating somebody else at the time, so I really wasn't like thinking about it, but I definitely remember him being super nice and really helpful, helping with the kids. And then, so we kind of got to know each other there, but I was dating, obviously. He was traveling a ton for work, way more than he travels now, and was gone months and months out of the year. And so I would see him sporadically at church. He'd be like, wait, you got a kid? Where'd that come from? Where's that one? Where'd the other one go? Because he'd be so in and out, but he would see, and we'd chat and always talk. He'd be like, you guys need to date. I'm like, well, he's always gone, and he never asked me out. So few years fast forward, 2 years ago at this point, I was dating another guy at the time, and our pastor and his wife were like, his wife mostly, was really like, you have got to go on a date with Paul. Like, I'm serious, you guys need to go on a date. Will you do it? If I set you up, will you go? And I was like, well, I'm kind of dating somebody else, but it was just like a month in, we were really new, and I'm like, okay, I will. So they texted and they kind of set it up and basically told Paul like, hey, if you ask her out, she will go. And so we were supposed to go on a group date. That got canceled, which we were both very glad about. And then we ultimately met for coffee, and the rest is history. So I met him through church, our pastor and his wife, I have to say, and his sister-in-law. That's who I'd have to give credit to for connecting us. So to those single mamas, obviously I was beyond the days of meeting people in bars and clubs. I don't do that. I'm a mama. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I just don't have time for it. So I would say getting out. Church is a great one. If you're not a Christian, no problem. Find other things that you like to do. Sports, volleyball. You can do it in a co-ed volleyball team, softball team. If you like hiking groups, rafting, like whatever it is that you like to do, you can do that. I have dated a bunch of people I worked with. Not the greatest idea. So I think finding people that kind of share your lifestyle, like-minded, is a great way, and trust people when they want to connect you, because I didn't trust them. I just kind of, it's weird. I don't know. I wasn't probably open or ready, but once I finally was. All right, let's pick one more last question, right, Grayson? Grayson's ready for me to play. So one more last question. I think a lot of these are the similar, asking about Paul or other things. Yes, more about Paul. why were the siblings sent to different families? Okay, so you're asking about the siblings that we have. We need to do a whole nother video on that, which is fun. If you guys want to do that, again, mark below if you want to hear more about the rest of the siblings. But they were adopted prior to Grayson being born. They were adopted to another family for similar reasons that my kids were taken away from them. And with Grayson, you kind of will know that in the story. Again, if you watch the other video, I keep referencing that, but that video is amazing for telling our story. But they actually didn't know about Grayson, and she gave enough false information that they never picked up on it. They only learned about him later when they learned about Hannah, who they did find out about. So that's why nobody really, again, our story, that's part of our miracle. They never made that connection. Nobody knew who Grayson really was at the time. So that's why we ended up in 2 different families. So, okay. Hopefully that answers a bunch of your questions. If you want me to do this, if you like it, if you've made it all the way through this, you guys are awesome. So more questions. I've got some here that are more, but others that you're thinking of, put them below in the comments, subscribe, and I will try to do this again if you love it. And for now, I'm off to go take care of the kiddos. It is Friday, so I'm gonna go enjoy the weekend. Hope you guys have an awesome weekend. Bye, guys.